thank you all for giving me the opportunity to come today to talk to you about process safety management. And I think our experience over the last 2 days has shown us there's a lot of good discussion around how aspects of asset integrity, inspection management can really benefit your organization. So, not to disappoint, this isn't too much on integrity management. We're really looking at the fundamentals of how software can help you manage risk from a process safety perspective. So just to introduce not just myself, but the team that are here today from Wolters Kluwer Enablon. Obviously myself, Robert Tulloch, I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer at Wolters Kluwer Enablon. As you can tell, I'm not from the region. I'm originally from a place called Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland. My background is oil and gas operations, working for drilling contractors, production operations. So I've got a good understanding of what it's like to be in a position where you have to report to management about the real-time status of your asset and whether you have risks around process safety. I also have my colleagues Anas and Anas, so both Anases, Mr. Nagawa and Mr. Kahan. We're here to discuss and we're open to talk to you. So we've got a big presence in the region. We've got a lot of customers, both in Oman, Qatar, the UAE, and also here in the Kingdom. So we're happy to share our experience and how we can benefit your operations moving forward. So I know this is sometimes a bit of a cliche thing that people do at conferences, but I always think it's good to reflect back on some of the historical events that have led to some of the standards that we now expect in our business. So looking at that facility, you might think it looks relatively benign. There might be not too many issues, but that's actually the Bhopal facility in India that to this date is still the most high consequence, high reality process safety event that's ever taken place. And thousands of people unfortunately lost their lives as a result of the release of the chemical in this area. And when you look back now, that's over 40 years ago that incident happened, and they're still dealing with the consequence and the fallout of those issues as we speak. This is another area, very different industry. This is in the nuclear industry, but this is Chernobyl. We're all aware of that incident. When we think about it from a process safety perspective, what could have been done to prevent that incident happening? Another one that's very close to my heart is Piper Alpha, North Sea accident, one of the worst disasters in offshore oil and gas operations. The company that I actually worked for in the North Sea was the legacy company of Occidental, a company called Talisman, which became Talisman Sinopec, and we operated a facility called Piper Bravo, which still flowed the wells from Piper Alpha. So when you think about the incidents and the impact that can have on a community and also the business, Occidental no longer work and operate in the European continental shelf as a result of incidents like this. Texas City, another incident, right? You look at all the different process safety related impacts that could have prevented that incident happening. It's a real learner in terms of what you need to have in place in your business to prevent incidents happening. And when you look at this, they all had predictive failures that could have prevented this incident taking place. And again, we think about Macondo, Deepwater Horizon in the US Gulf. Again, the same company has an impact on both of those incidents. And in a lot of respect, that company has never recovered from those incidents and where they are today, okay? And I guess the idea behind showing you these images is I want you to just have a think about the impact that that's had, not only on the communities, but the shareholders and the communities that they operate. And we're not always just talking about process safety events that lead to fire, explosion, loss of containment. We're also thinking about the environmental impacts that can have on the world that we live in, okay? The oil spill that resulted from Macondo has had severe impacts across the whole Gulf, leading to not just environmental impacts, but livelihoods of the people that work in that area. So when I do these presentations, I like you to think and just take a moment to think about, do you understand what could go wrong on your facility that you're responsible for? Do you know what you have in place to prevent those incidents or accidents happening? And most importantly, do you know that those systems that you take accountability and responsibility for are actually working effectively? And when we talk to a lot of customers, yes, they've done their HAZOP LOPA studies. Yes, they've got an idea from a risk-based asset integrity system or planned maintenance within their management system, but do you actually know if the barriers that you have in place and the barriers that you have taken responsibility and accountability for are actually functioning correctly? In a lot of principles, companies aren't aware of the real-time status of those critical barriers in their situation. So we work with lots of the biggest companies globally, not only in process safety management, but aspects of ESG, control of work, and different aspects of the whole risk management profile. But when we look at and we speak to some of these biggest companies, we hear the same challenges that everyone here would face over and over again. Whether we're talking about safety, we're talking about operational and financial impacts, but also the impacts from a legislative or responsible person perspective in the area that you operate, okay? And what our solution and what we try to achieve within Wolters Kluwer Enablon is to address areas within each of these three verticals, okay? You know, safety is paramount. We all want to go home the same. We want to leave the communities that we work the same. However, we also want to make sure that we're profitable, we're delivering shareholder value, and that we're offering our wider community the benefits that they expect from our products that we all deliver within our operations. And when we talk to these industries, you know, we have lots of different forums, we have lots of different conferences. I don't know if you know much about Wolters Kluwer Enablon, but we work with the largest oil and gas companies in the world. Maybe not all of them. There's a couple here in Saudi in particular that we'd love to work with, and we've got really good discussions ongoing. But these are some of the things that we hear about. So when we think about process safety, what do you need to make business decisions at the right time, with the right information, with the right people, okay? And some of those words that we hear from people all resonate in a couple of different areas. And we think about the three main areas that we hear about. We have disconnected solutions. We work within our silos within risk-based inspection or asset management or competency management or frontline operations around control of work, permit to work activities, risk assessment. We all work in silos doing the best jobs that we can, but do we truly understand what the cumulative risk of all these different aspects of information have on our ongoing operations? When we think also about the area that we work in and why invest, I think in the last panel there was a really good discussion on return on investment, okay? Why invest money in a software if it's not going to return a benefit to your business operations? We work with a lot of different independent analysts that look at what is the benefit and what is the spend profile of companies, not only globally, but in this specific region, in areas around process safety technology. And this slide clearly shows that over the next I think this back in 2024, over the next 6 years, you can see that the spend is nearly going to double in process safety-related software. And that includes aspects of AI, that includes aspects of risk-based inspection, asset management, whatever you want to look at. But the principal aspects of process safety management are going to increase. And then when we look at it from a regional perspective, and we look at the region that we work in here in the Gulf and Middle East, we can see that there's a significant spend. And actually, the growth of the MENA region is going to be the largest from a global perspective based on this independent analyst's report. And I think, again, it's not just oil and gas operations, it's not just petrochemical operations, it's all aspects of when you're producing and you have a process in your plant, you have the consequence of having a major accident hazard, which could lead to a potential consequence that isn't satisfactory to your organization. So I want you just to take a moment to think about what does your long-term digital roadmap look like, and do you have process safety management software on that roadmap and have an idea of how you're going to go about integrating that into your business operations. And I guess this slide kind of gives you an idea of what if you could have a software that could support you in that strategic direction. And yes, there's lots of different other companies in the region and globally that can support you that. I'm here to represent my company, who's Wolters Kluwer Enablon, and who's recognized as being the market-leading software for integrated process safety management. Now, that's not a fluke. We've been in the industry for a long time. We're part of a large company called Wolters Kluwer. They've been around since 1880-something. They've got a long-term strategic direction. They're all about having long-term partnerships with the company that we work with. And you can see over the last 20 years, they've been strategically acquiring companies to be able to deliver and perform a strategic integrated process safety management solution. So you can see some of the names that you might be familiar with there. One of our proudest solutions that we have is called Bowtie XP. It's a software solution that allows you to take HAZOP and LOPA type data and visualize it in a way that is really easily accessible to your end users. And when we look at it, we don't offer just a single solution. We offer an enterprise-wide integrated platform, okay? So whether you're thinking about ESG and sustainability, you're thinking about health and safety management around incident reporting, action management, how you go about competency management, as well as control of work, which is permit to work, risk assessment and isolation management, and the key fundamentals of process safety management, such as management of change, HAZOP and LOPA studies, barrier management. These are all solutions that Enablon can provide you in a single integrated ecosystem. And the last panel touched on a lot about how AI is going to be impactful in your business. The benefits of having an integrated platform means the data that you're consuming within your ecosystem allows you to have a single source of truth so that you can analyze and understand what's happening on your business at any given time. And I've put up a QR code there, so if you want to take it and scan it while I'm talking, please do. But this gives you a link to our website that demonstrates that we have been recognized as a leader within process safety management solution. And Verdantix is, like I say, is an independent corporation that talks with all the major competitors in the area around process safety management. And at Wolters Kluwer Enablon, we're very proud that we've been seen as not only a leader, but an innovator in the space of PSM. And as I mentioned, Wolters Kluwer, we're not a privately backed company, okay? We've got major, when I say privately backed company, we're not owned by investment firms that are looking to keep a company for 3 to 5 years, flip it on for a profit and move on. We're in it for the long term, okay? So when we think about some of our biggest strategic partners like Shell, who operate on an upstream, downstream, midstream, PDO in Oman, or Qatar Energy's LNG as an example, all these companies have been with us long term, okay? And we work in terms of partnership to drive not only innovation in the industry, but also innovation within those companies to deliver products that add value to their ongoing operations, okay? So the software that we use isn't software that is maybe a little bit gimmicky. When we think about permit to work or isolation management, those softwares are fundamental to preventing major accident hazards being realized at the coalface when you're operating and working. And what does that mean, okay? So it would be amiss of me not to speak about what our vision and what our current product offering is, but as you can see, it's all about being integrated. So we think about the data that we're utilizing, we think about the AI technology that we're going to be investing in our companies. We want that to be integrated. We want to understand how data flowing from all these different verticals within our company, whether it's RBI inspection, our maintenance management, our competency management, and our alarm and override systems, and our frontline control of work operations, we want all that data flowing into a single tool to give us a single source of truth. And that's really what the Enablon solution is designed to do. So when we think about the initial engineering and design aspects, so we all understand that process hazard analysis studies are critical in not only the design, but the ongoing running of assets. So whether that's HAZOPs or LOPA studies, we can take that data and analyze that data in our software solution, okay? And you think about some of the critical information, the asset tags, the P&IDs, the ongoing maintenance assuring activities, the RBI inspection information, all of that stems from these initial process hazard analysis studies. And by having that in one single platform, we can start using those unique identifiers to be smart. So we can start adopting AI technology to allow us, when we come to a 5-year review of those PHA studies, we can actually understand what incidents took place on that piece of equipment, what RBI inspection is telling us about what's happening. Have we had any ongoing impacts on our barriers in that solution? And then what we also have is a solution called Bowtie, okay? So if you're familiar with process safety management and you're familiar with the software that's available in the market, Bowtie XP is the industry-leading software for visualizing hazards in terms of threats, consequences, and top events, okay? So we take that data that was typically static and we operationalize that by linking to all these external data sources to drive effective management of what's going on. And as you can see, that could be your PI systems, that could be your ERPs, that could be your RBI inspection reports that are driving real-time data into barrier models and into bowtie diagrams that can tell you, are the barriers that you think you're taking credit for operating effectively? And often we're surprised when we implement the solution, companies thought they were doing a good job until they really understand what the cumulative risk of all the different pieces of information in their ecosystem is actually telling them. And then, what does that mean for frontline operations? So, having been on the front line, having been an operator, having looked at what it's like to issue a permit out in the work field or issue an isolation to be performed in the plant, I want to know, is there a risk of something going wrong in that location? When I issue a permit to break containment or to isolate a piece of equipment, is there an impairment or a degradation on that pipeline that I'm away to work on? Are there inhibits or overrides on the fire and gas detection system that I'm going to be working in that area? And if there is, I need to put controls in place that allow me to prevent the worst possible scenario being realized, okay? So there's no point taking credit for a fire and gas system if it's inhibited, okay? So it's really important that we believe that we inform frontline operations of the risks before they go ahead and do that. And then, obviously, we're always linking into the external data platforms, whether that's your digital twin, whether that's external AI tools, whether that's an external reporting database that you have with a Power BI type dashboard. We're fully capable in performing that activities. So, we're here the rest of the day. We've spoken to quite a lot of people since we've been here. We're in booth 15B. We'd love you to come and have a chat with us. We'd love to introduce ourselves personally and maybe have an understanding of how we can support some of the operations. Some of the people in the crowd are already customers of ours, right? So if we think about Zabik, who is currently using our Bowtie software very successfully in their operations, those are the types of testimonials, those are the types of operations that we want to include as we move forward. So thank you very much, Shukran, for allowing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of myself and Wolters Kluwer Enablon. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.